Okay, hello. So, on today's episode of EmpowerDis, I wanted to introduce you to one fantastic professional today. I wanted to introduce you to Amanda of Integrate Advisors in Employment. And we're going to talk a little bit about the company, the mission, and even Amanda's own story. And hopefully, we just want to explore this all these new initiatives about hiring people with different abilities, with different needs, and primarily we're focusing on integrate advisors employment today. So Amanda, thank you so much for being here. It's such a pleasure to see you. Happy Friday. How are you doing?
Thank you so much, Ellen. Thank you for the kind words. You are
Yeah,
also a fantastic colleague. I love
thank you.
connecting with you and chatting with you. It's been fantastic getting to know you. Happy Friday indeed. It is Friday afternoon. It's a beautiful day. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm ready for the weekend. I'm not going to lie. So, yeah, but definitely, I wanted to spend today to spotlight your company and to spotlight all the great things that you're currently doing, particularly for the neurodiverse population, and really just talk about what Integrate Advisors Employment does. And so, if you wouldn't mind, could you tell me a little bit, how did Integrate Advisors Employment start?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Integrate started back, we're almost at our 15th year anniversary. As I look that I don't know it's 2024, but I write that every day. So we're almost at 15 years. And our president and founder, Marcia Scheiner, has a son, an adult son on the autism spectrum. And she came out of the corporate business world, looking for some, like all parents do, looking for support, looking for opportunities for their children. And, what she saw in the landscape was that there were so many companies that were candidate focused, that were
Mm-hmm.
looking for positions for their specific clients and candidates. So having her corporate knowledge and background and experience, she flipped it, and now here we are, 14 years later and change, in terms of having the company be the focus. So our mission is to help organizations identify, recruit, and retain autistic and or neurodivergent individuals.
Mm-hmm. And you bring up a good point in terms of like why that population. I know there's the personal story that comes with it,
Mhm.
but what are the benefits of the neurodivergent autistic community? Why that population in particular?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so the population in general, so those who identify as autistic or are diagnosed as autistic or neurodivergent, autistic specifically, it's like 2.2% of the population, and those that go to the percentage of those go on to post secondary education.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there is the group that graduates post secondary support. A lot of candidates and students who are going through school receive a lot of support in school through accessibility services, through direct support programs. And once they are graduating, there's a unemployment gap. There's this gap that we've seen in terms of either unemployment or underemployment, where candidates and students, once they graduate, aren't in their major field. Now, these are candidates that have gone through school, are very intelligent and bright and focused on their skill, on their major, in their area, in their industry, but they're not necessarily getting jobs. And it's for a variety of the different job search skills that are needed, interviewing skills, resume writing, the list goes on. But this talent pool that's virtually untapped is excellent because these individuals are fantastic in terms of what they know, what they do, what their industry is, but unfortunately just aren't getting the right skills and right path to get that employment. So our mission and our goal is to help kind of close that gap, not kind of, to close that gap.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the mission there, and so these individuals are fully able, work ready to complete the tasks of different positions. Unfortunately, because that some of them don't make eye contact or didn't have internship experience on their resume, or so many other reasons that they're not getting the interview, they're not getting the job. So our job is to help educate different employers and different hiring managers, HR business partners, everyone at different companies, to help them become more neuroinclusive, to show that these individuals is a fantastic untapped talent pool. And it's a small, effort of support to change their thinking and to open it up to have individuals who are, um, able to focus differently. Individuals on the spectrum oftentimes pick up on different things that other individuals don't. I'm thinking so many examples are flying through my head right now of different, benefits to having autistic employees. There's so many small, minute details. I'm thinking of just a colleague of mine that I miss and that he picks up on, and it's fantastic. And I feel bad because he's always apologizing for bringing something up to me, and I'm like, oh no, this is amazing. Thank you so much for pointing this out. I am in no way upset at all. So they're often overlooked. And it's really about, changing, as the manager, changing their point of view, their vision, their support, their mostly communication style, in order to have these individuals who are able to bring so much to their companies.
Yeah, no, you bring a good point. Can we dive a little bit into that? I know you touched a little bit of like when you were talking about focus and when you were talking about eye contact. Can you dive a little bit into into kind of like those misunderstood sort of sort of details and actually how a person with who is autistic, who is neurodivergent, what skills they actually bring.
Yeah, absolutely. So looking at a neuroatypical resume, it's going to look different than a neurotypical resume. And I think sometimes a lot of hiring managers will, the average recruiter will look at a resume for like 5 to 6 seconds, and they'll decide before they pass along, go to the next one, go to the next one. And because neurodivergent, neuroatypical individuals are very singularly focused during college, during school, they oftentimes don't have those internships, don't have those opportunities outside, don't have those extracurriculars. So their resumes look different, and so they get passed along. Now, the benefit to that is that they have been so hyper focused on learning their trade, learning their skill, learning everything in school, and the amount of knowledge that they come into the industry that they're applying to I'm trying to think of jobs I've filled recently, into accounting, into computational biology, into web development, just to name a few, that the skills that they can perform to have, to meet the qualifications of those jobs oftentimes outperform other individuals. So it's something that we often talk about with hiring managers. So coming into an interview, right, a lot of neurodivergent individuals have trouble making eye contact. Not all, but just for the purpose of kind of giving an example, coming in and not being able to make eye contact or not shaking a hand, those are things that a hiring manager or someone who's interviewing would automatically draw attention to and say, well, this person isn't professional. This person, isn't going to network as well, as someone else. I don't think because this person, didn't shake my hand hard enough, they can't do this job. And so oftentimes what we'll suggest is to have the hiring manager give the candidate a skills assessment. So even before they come in for the interview, to give them a skills assessment of the position. So giving them a skills assessment that's specific to the job, saying, okay, here is this, specific accounting problem. Can you explain how you got here? Here's the information. Can you create this pivot table? Can you create this spreadsheet? Going through, and a candidate whose expertise is in accounting can do that flawlessly and can go through. Now, necessarily explaining it sometimes and having that, come out verbally, that's not going to always come across. So it's having those skills and having that focus to make sure candidates, have the qualifications of the job without being overlooked because of those other items that they can't do. It's very, very challenging for a lot of individuals, and it's very different for each individual as well. There's so many unique skills beyond, the being able to focus singularly on a certain task project to see it through. So many things, like I said before, picking up small details that may not necessarily be picked up on. There's a strong sense of going back to that hyperfixation, hyperfocusing on a certain topic and having that knowledge to bring in. I think you and I were just talking about memory before, and yeah. Mine is gone having 3 children. So I blame them. It's really me. But having 3 children and having so much going on, there's the memory too is something that neurodivergent individuals come in with and can bring to the table and have that information. And it's not, I'm trying to think of the word I'm trying to say. It's not bad. It's just different. And I think for so long, so many individuals have, learned that these autistic individuals need extra support. Okay. Yes. But if you look at what the extra support is, it's you being more clear in your communication, which really everyone can use, right? You being clearer in your communication can really affect everyone. You giving more concise information. I mean, here I am giving a long answer, giving some more concise information and having that, written out in detail, that helps you too. That helps the company, that helps the neurodivergent individual. And it's it's hard to say, okay, well, then what's the problem?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. To that point, and you touched on it a little bit, to that point, how do you educate these companies when, the skills assessment, that's brilliant, but what do you do in terms of, let's say, a candidate does stellar on the skills assessment, and then of course there's the behavioral, and so how do you help these companies?
Yeah. So there's a few different ways that we bring our approach into different companies. One is a lot of education and training. And so the first thing that we'll do with a company is go through an assessment. And this is where we really learn everything about them. We're assessing everything from the first conversation, and having to, understand them, their company culture, what makes them unique, what their day-to-day is, what the day-to-day of the specific positions are, the physical atmosphere, their recruiting cycle, what their onboarding process looks like. We'll go through a very extensive assessment of the company and offer some slight suggestions on ways to make it more neuroinclusive. And so once we do the assessment as well, we will also provide that training and education. So we provide a general autism awareness training it's open to everyone in the company. We offer an interview training as well to give suggestions on, how to ask a question. One of the best examples for changing an interview question is if a hiring manager says, um, what would your boss, what would your current boss say about you? And this was actually a real example. We had an autistic individual say, I don't know what my boss would say about me. I'm not him. You'd have to ask him. And so we offer that suggestion of, okay, well, let's rephrase that a little bit. What do you think your boss would say about you? Oh, okay. He would say that I have effective time management skills. I'm a good team player, going through. So offering those suggestions. We also take a look at job descriptions, since that's something to help support companies. A lot of candidates, a lot of neurodivergent, a lot of autistic candidates will take a look at a job description and self-select out, because the most common phrase on a job description is excellent communicator, and excellent communicator, excellent collaborator. Well, neurodivergent individuals are not exactly known for being excellent communicators verbally, and how it is, in typical day to day. They can do it in different ways. And so it's kind of shifting that language a little bit. Okay, do you really have to have excellent communicator, excellent, collaborator on your job description? We understand what you're looking for here. Let's kind of change that phrase, and make it more accessible to other individuals. So small suggestions like that to kind of change the approach, change the culture of the company. If a company also is hiring through us, we'll provide a manager training. So through different anecdotes that we've learned over the years, and from different real life experience of our candidates and working with managers, some different scenarios that might come up. So if we have a position that we're recruiting for and have sourced a candidate for, they've gone through the process, they've been offered the position. Now we go into manager training. And for that specific individual, this is kind of where we get a little bit more specific to what their learning style is, how they work best, how a manager can best support them. And through different questions and there's different, I call it like pieces to the puzzle of putting, together this information for a candidate in terms of how to best support them. We will provide those different scenarios and examples within the manager training. So it's throughout that process, we have a lot of communication with different companies in offering these suggestions. And then once a candidate starts, and once they're onboarded, which we support them through that process, both the candidate and the company, we provide support for managers and for the candidates. If it's a full-time position, usually it's about 6 months. Sometimes if a candidate needs extra support, we go beyond 6 months. But our goal really is to, bridge that gap between manager and candidate communication. We want to be able to have the candidate self-advocate for themselves. We want to have the manager be able to learn what we've taught them through all of these trainings, through our conversations, and them getting to know the candidate as well, that, we want to become obsolete and they can, have their relationship, because that's, the most important is that they're having everything, they're having great communication. But as we all know, you're not going to come in on day one and have that great relationship with someone, no matter who you are. So we want to make sure we're there to support that.
Yeah, so that's great to know. So if I'm understanding, so a company comes to you and says they're interested in hiring a certain amount of staff members on the spectrum, or and then do you go to your talent pool and then foresee the onboarding. How does it generally work, that process?
Yeah. So it can work a few different ways in terms of, a company coming to us and say, we want to start an autistic hiring program, or we want to start, to learn and educate ourselves more in this space. And we want to have a training for all of our employees. So companies come to us, or we also have our vice president of corporate engagement who works with different colleagues and constituents to form relationships and have different companies and have different clients that we work with. And so when a company comes to us, if they want to start an autism hiring program, that's when we go through that entire process from assessment to candidate support, and we'll work with them on determining the amount of hires, determining what positions they want to hire for, and we'll work with them. We will mostly do entry level positions, since that's the support we provide, and that's the education that we provide to the companies. And so we'll talk with them about what past positions we've recruited for, and talk with them about the hiring managers that are going to be involved in this. And we're very big on not, voluntelling different managers to do this, because we want to have the candidate be supported as well. No one wants to come into a, manager candidate relationship where a manager is like, I didn't want to hire this person.
Okay.
We're not going to put someone in that position. That's a miserable experience for both of them. So we work with companies to help kind of decide what, with them. Then they give us the job descriptions and we go through that process. Other companies come in and are just looking for specific training. Perhaps it could be just for their, employer relations department, or for the whole company. So there's different ways that we can work with companies.
Very good. Very good. And I'm gonna play. Well, my next question. Let's skip to this question first.
Okay.
So, in terms of, let's say you're an individual who's neurodivergent or autistic, and you hear of your wonderful company, what on the flip side is available to prospective candidates wanting to interview?
Great question. And that makes me remember that I didn't answer half of your other question before. So when a company is working with us, see, this is the memory loss that is happening, and it's a brain fog that I'll have my entire life, ever since my 7-year-old was born.
It's Friday too. Don't remember it's Friday.
I know. Gonna have to just maybe call it a day after this. So we have a database of autistic job seekers. So we have a submission on our website where candidates who are looking for positions can submit their resume to. And so we will go in. It's approaching about 3,000 neurodivergent job seekers at the moment. So which is fantastic. So that's the first place that we'll look for candidates that meet the requirements of the positions we're sourcing for. And so we'll look to see if their background, their experience, their expertise, geographic location, specific to them. We also will take part of that assessment that we do with the company to see if a candidate is able to, really succeed in that environment. If a candidate, is very anxious and needs remote work, working in an open floor plan with cubicles is not going to be the best environment for them. And we want to set them up for success. So if a candidate is a really good fit for a position, and that's one of the obstacles in the way, we would have a conversation with the candidate. And we would also have a conversation with the company about, okay, can we maybe have a private location for this candidate? If it has to be in person, could we talk about a hybrid model? Could we, so we'll have those conversations and discussions. So candidates can always submit their resume to our general resume submission. We also have any positions that we are sourcing for at the moment. We have a current openings page on our website, so they can submit their resume there. I know I sound like an infomercial at this
No,
point.
but it's great. This is the meat and potatoes we want, and I'm sure anybody who listens to this is like, yes, tell us, yeah.
So, I was using the read aloud feature on Microsoft Word earlier, and I was telling someone this morning, I was like, they changed the AI voice, and it's very soothing now when it reads aloud to you, and it's like someone from a commercial. So that's how I feel like I am now. So candidates can reach out. So anyone who submits a resume to us, whether it's applying for a position or through the general resume submission, they are within our database. And so we always tell them that if something changes or if they have an updated resume, to let us know. We also reach out to anyone who's submitted a resume and gave them a little bit of background about us, see if they want to have a conversation, talk a little bit about if they do need some additional resources. We have lots of different resources available on our website. The great part about all of this for candidates and neurodivergent job seekers is it is free of charge. So we always talk to different schools, and I come out of the higher ed world, so always talking to my higher ed constituents and my higher ed colleagues and saying, they're like, okay, well, how much is it for a candidate to submit their resume? And so it's a very welcomed surprise when they learn it's free. So the other way we do help support neurodivergent job seekers is through our Employer Connect program. And so this program is run in the fall. It's a virtual networking job skills search. It's a virtual networking job search skill support program. I don't think I've ever said it that way, and that's probably why it's a huge tongue twister. But what happens is we have candidates apply to be part of the program, and we look to have about 25 to 30, candidates as the participants of each cohort of each program each fall. And what these candidates do, or maybe it's a candidate, who's 1 or 2 years out of school and really having trouble finding that job, like a candidate we spoke about before. And the Employer Connect program is an opportunity for them to meet with different host companies through a weekly session. And each weekly session, there's a different topic that we focus on. So it could be elevator pitch, LinkedIn profile, mock interviews, informational interviews. We go through a bunch of different opportunities, and we match the Employer Connect participants with company volunteers. And so for about the first 30 minutes of the session, the company presents on the topic they're talking about. They talk about their company too. So it's an opportunity for candidates to learn a little bit more. And then we break off into different breakout rooms where they meet one-on-one with their company volunteer. So if it is working on elevator pitch, that candidate would practice their elevator pitch, and the company volunteer would talk with them about, this is great. Here are different ways we can improve it, or that's great. I don't think anything needs to change, whatever the case might be. And so these sessions happen once a week. They're 2 hours. So it's not an incredible amount of time commitment, but there is great learning opportunities, how to network with people. There's a lot of LinkedIn information in there too. LinkedIn has been a company, has been part of it for years. Other companies we've had, Barclays, Paramount, American Express, Digitas, Teva, kind bars, and the list goes on.
I'm impressed what you can remember on a Friday. It's like,
Thank you so much. That's
it's
great.
amazing.
Me
It's
too. Yeah.
amazing.
For being
No,
honest.
yes, and three kids, come on, you know?
I know. Yeah.
You know? Yeah, but it sounds fantastic. Now I'm going to switch gears and I'm going to play devil's advocate,
Okay.
okay? Because, full disclosure, I am a career coach. As you know, I'm a career coach in the tech industry.
Yep.
And there are a lot of layoffs and there are a lot of entry level entry level candidates trying to get in to the technical realm.
Mhm.
What do you say when, because the market is so dense, what do you say to candidates that say, well, I could be neurodivergent, I could be autistic, why aren't I considered? Or why does this population get special? I mean, I'm going to call the elephant in the room,
Mhm.
special treatment, for such a difficult market.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So it's a good question. Um, you're making me think on a Friday how to
I
answer. See, those
know.
other questions I could answer right now. So these specific programs that we have are dedicated positions that are for neurodivergent or autistic individuals. And when we have a candidate enter into this position, those are dedicated specific for individuals. Then it's it's like meeting any other diversity in quota at a company. So what we say is, okay, well, kind of if you replace neurodivergent or autistic in that sentence, well, why is it any different for an LGBTQ person to go in there? Or there's so many diversity, in diversity identities that can go in there. It's it's not to discredit, neurotypical individuals. But going back to everything that we have just talked about, is that the percentage of the population that is out there that identify as autistic and neurodivergent, less than 2% of individuals. And those individuals that even want to come forward to disclose their neurodivergence or autism. So we have a bunch of individuals that are, vying for jobs. If they're going against their neurotypical peers, they're oftentimes completely selected out. And that's been part of the reason why we've developed these programs. We've gone in and helped support companies to become the goal would be to become more neuroinclusive across the board. That would be fantastic. I mean, thinking about how many people are out there that have so many different conditions or challenges, just beyond neurodivergence. I mean, anxiety, thinking about different physical disabilities, physical differences, mental health disabilities beyond anxiety. I mean, I could go on for hours about that coming from my background of counseling, but and so we want to have this opportunity to have the neurodivergent individuals who are equally as qualified for these positions be able to have an opportunity to interview, have an opportunity to have a dedicated position for them.
So I think what you said is just beautiful, and I just want to make sure that the audience hears it. So it's not so much as like a handout. It's not so much as a special treatment, but an opportunity to do the same as other job seekers, to have that opportunity to network. Because I think what you do is you bring a good point. Just because you have the support to network doesn't mean you will be the person chosen. It's pretty much leveling the playing field.
Mhm.
And then still, the opportunity is still up to the candidate themselves. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
that's, with this, with us, I can speak to integrate specifically.
Hmm.
Is that, we're not coaching the candidate on, technology. We'll stay in that industry, in that field, right? I have no idea half of the things about computer programming languages. I know a lot more now, having working in recruiting and having recruited a lot of different positions. Um, so much so that I think a candidate the other day, it was recent. He said, "Oh, the programming language C and then the hashtag symbol," and I was like, "Oh, C sharp. I know what that is. You don't have to explain it to me." Nothing gets me more upset than when when people think I don't understand things. So, um, but anyways, having that information, I'm not teaching them how to talk about that. I'm not teaching them how to do this, right? I'm teaching the employer how to have that candidate be heard. And be heard is not necessarily that verbal, the speaking in an interview. It's not necessarily from a voice, but be heard in terms of this is the talent that they can bring to the table. And exactly like you said, it's evening the playing field. And I remember back, I come out of the world of higher ed again, working with students with accommodations. And I had a student who was pretty, not their fault. They were just naive to it. They didn't understand. And they didn't understand how some students were given extra time for exams, and I'm also, as an adjunct professor, okay, I mean, I would conduct it differently so that it would be, I conducted very differently. That was a little bit more accommodating than a lot of professors, but more and more professors nowadays are much more accommodating, which is great. But I had a student that said, well, why do other students get more time? That doesn't seem fair. And so it's explaining, well, their brain processes differently and your brain processes differently. Your brain has the ability to conduct the or to I'm sorry, to take the test within 2 hours, right? Someone else who has a very low processing speed needs double that time to even read through the question as you can. And so having that additional time doesn't give them an extra advantage. It gives them, like you said, it evens the playing field. It's not like it's going, okay, here's the neurotypical student, right? And here's the neuroatypical student. You're not giving them extra time to put them up here. You're giving them extra time to put it here or here. I should look at myself while I'm doing that to make sure it's even.
I,
That's exactly what I was saying, and I agree with you. Yeah.
yes, I love that analogy for sure. Do you want to share? Does any success stories come to mind
Ooh, about candidates, is that
about candidates or companies or either
okay?
or? You pick.
Success stories. Yeah. I'm thinking of a company, one of our corporate partners that we've worked with for a few years, PNC Bank. They have been phenomenal. We always, we're working with them. The hiring that they've done in terms of hiring different candidates into their programs, the support they've given, and honestly, the willingness to learn, I think, is the biggest uh, characteristic that I've noted that comes out of working with them. It's a very good collaborative discussion whenever we talk with them. Whenever we have candidates that will go to them, we know that they're going to be well taken care of, because just like having 3 kids, I am a protective mama bear of everyone, and that's just my personality. I want to make sure that candidates are given the opportunity. I want to make sure that they're given everything that they need to succeed, not necessarily that they're given everything to, achieve more than others. Going back, it's evening the playing fields. It's giving them those pieces of support that they need to succeed. But PNC Bank has just championed. They're just amazing, from a lot of different divisions, departments, and working very closely with them over the years. And they've certainly taken a lot of suggestions, a lot of feedback, and the candidates have really, really grown. We've worked with them for several years, and the candidates even have moved different states. Candidates have relocated to be in their positions, and they've thrived, and they've immersed themselves into the culture there. They've immersed themselves into the different apartment buildings that they work in, or the different participating in the different ERGs that PNC has, or thinking of some candidates in particular. We had one candidate there that was kind of it wasn't I wouldn't say a bumpy road, but there were some detours along the way. To use a metaphor, which we tell people never to use. So whenever I do use a metaphor, I'm like, don't be like me. Don't do that. But they had some challenges, when they first got there after. And so once we ended our support with them, we felt great because that particular candidate was on a team that he felt, I think I'm trying to remember exactly what he said. He felt he belonged in. He had a team of 3. It was exactly the amount of people that he could, collaborate and work with, that wasn't too overwhelming. And the very cool thing about their program is that their technology development program, you go through different rotations. And then on the final rotation, then you go through a pitch program, and you end up in a different different part of the department, right? So I felt like he ended up in the best case scenario there for him, and he's really succeeding there. But it is, even thinking back to just an email before coming on to do this, is a candidate who went through Employer Connect last year. He is just such he brings a smile to your face. He's very charismatic. He is the most detail oriented person, and can pick up on so many different things, and is such an amazing hard worker, and just the detail. I love it so much. So he was updating me because he's currently at one of our clients as well. And he is updating me how it's going. And he's met so many people and networked, and meeting people in different departments, and doing informational interviews. And that's what I love too, hearing, is that the candidates, when they do land in a placement, that they're taking advantage of that placement. They are not taking it for granted at all. They will go in and network with people and learn from their managers, and really go above and beyond. So that's my favorite part, is when they come back and they're like, oh, I had an informational interview with this person in another department or sector of the company. So they take advantage of what is given to them, which is amazing.
That's amazing. They take advantage of it, and they thrive with it. They even push it even further.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. So I know we've had a very long conversation, but and I could speak to you for days. Like, I feel we could do this for days, and so, but I would love to, and excuse me, I'm in New York, so that
I know
that happens. But if you could leave listeners, or whoever listens to this podcast, with one thing, what would you like to leave them with?
I would like to leave them with thinking about different ways how they can make their life, their company, how they can bring more neuroinclusion into that, and thinking about how some of the examples that we've been giving and talking about over the course of this discussion, and how some different challenges or obstacles are out there for neurodivergent or autistic individuals, and especially at a company, in employment, is if they are in a place where they can make that change and make their companies more neuroinclusive. And by saying that, I believe everyone at a company can really bring that from, the C-suite level to, the entry level candidates. So bringing that in and asking those questions is, how can we become more neuroinclusive, and how can we, start to get on that path towards hiring more neurodivergent individuals, towards helping to close this employment gap here.
Mm-hmm. And I know I said final thoughts, but I'm going to add a supplementary. How could considering neurodivergent neural diversity, how could that help companies' bottom line, and how could that help their company grow?
I mean, there's so many reasons. I could spend so much time here. I think going back to, one of the last examples I gave of one of the candidates is that all of their specific unique abilities that they bring in, and by creating just more neuroinclusion for unique abilities for autistic individuals, really opening the doors for all individuals, right? Neuroinclusion is there for every single person, because even if companies, think they do, think they don't, know it or not, there are neurodivergent individuals that are employed there. That, statistically speaking, that there are individuals who have been diagnosed, who have a son or a daughter, or, some family member, something close relation, is that by bringing that neuroinclusion into their company, they're going to make people feel more welcome, perform better, have more success, and also be more invested in the company that they're working for. If they feel more invested in the company that they're working for, they're more willing to do everything that the company is asking of them. They perform better. When you're happy at your job, you can do things for, however long. I mean, I had a colleague of mine who asked me, I was answering emails on a Sunday night, and he was like, Are you okay? Why are you answering emails on a Sunday night? And I was like, I don't know, I had some time and I just wanted to do that, because I do truly love what I do. And, I use me as an example because our company is really truly neuro inclusive, and that's what we would like to see for everyone.
And I love how you say that really it's like they bring, like, people with different abilities brings a different mindset.
Mm-hmm.
A different mindset that maybe you haven't thought before.
Yeah.
Like, one of them is clarity.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you're clear, if you think things through a different way, there's so much more possibility versus if you just thought things for the C-level individuals.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's so many people at a company to think that way, to think more globally like that. Absolutely.
Right. Exactly. Well, thank you so much, Amanda. It's always a pleasure. Um, definitely we're going to continue the conversation. This is not the one and only thing that we will definitely, we'll definitely keep in touch. And if anyone is interested to hear more about your company, what is the best way to get in contact?
Sure. That's a great point. So our website is integrateadvisors.org. You can go online, and if you're a candidate, submit your resume. If you're interested in starting a hiring program or have more training and education, you can submit a form there too. It's the best place to go.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, my friend. Thank you for doing this on a Friday.
Thank you.
And thank you for doing this with me.
Of course.
Yeah, wishing everyone the best for sure. So thank you, everyone.